Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 17th event in the Nightlight Poetry Series. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm delighted to be here with you tonight, despite a week that's been, I'm not going to lie, pretty tough. Earlier this afternoon, we learned of the passing of David Lynch, who is somebody who meant a lot to me artistically, just a visionary and a really, really lovely director of films. Also, totally separate from the David Lynch thing, I had to say goodbye to one of our lovely cats, Pumpernickel. So shout out to Pumpernickel wherever you are. I hope you're doing well. But one of the things that absolutely lifts a heavy heart without fail every time is poetry. And so I am so, so excited to be welcoming a lineup of poets who I admire deeply and who I'm so, so excited to hear in Simone Harris, Rachel Lauren Myers, Tommy Wyatt Blake, and Suzanne Frischkorn, all of whose wonderful work you're going to hear this evening. Before our readers share their brilliant poetry with us, I'd like to just say a few quick words about the series in case this is your first time listening in. Nightlight is a reading series featuring poets and writers in a monthly Zoom, usually on the third Thursday of the month at 9 p.m. Eastern. At each of our events, we feature a group of invited readers to share their work with us. Having slots for readers every month means that we're always looking for folks who'd be interested in participating. So if you know or are yourself a poet or writer who'd be willing to share their work at a future event, please get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you. We're on Twitter at Nightlight Poems, all one word, NIGHTLIGHTPOEMS. And we're on Instagram at night_light_poems_, where it's harder to get un_scored usernames saved for you. You're also just welcome to reach out to me directly. I'm at Tom Snarsky on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I also am at tomsnarsky@gmail.com. Apologies in advance because we've had a lovely surge of interest in 2025, so I'm a little behind on responding to invitations of interest from like interested readers, but I still would love to hear from you. We do have a few lineups that are already full in 2025, but it's a long year with 12 months, and we would love to have you, maybe your friends as well, on to read. It's always a joy, and not only to have people on to read, but then to come back. That's like the real stuff that poetry and community is made of. So please get in touch if you're interested. But now I would like to direct your attention to our readers for this evening. And I am so, so delighted to begin this evening's reading by introducing our first reader in Simone Harris. Simone Harris is the former founder and editor-in-chief of the Modern Review. She resides in Toronto, Ontario with her family. And Simone, I'm so, so excited to hear what you're going to read. Take it away. The floor is yours.
Amazing. Thank you, Tom, for having me. And I am definitely dedicating this reading to Pumpernickel. Okay. The first poem is called I Once Had a Dutch Boyfriend. I once had a Dutch boyfriend who also happened to be a Dutch artist. On our first date, I asked him if he wanted to be the next Rembrandt, and he said, "Who's that?" I should have known right then, but I went on to date him for 2 years. He went away to school in London and fell in love with a girl on an escalator. I told him it must have been one of those really long escalators, the kind at airports, or else you fall in love too quickly. He said something like, "Goodbye, Simone," but I wasn't too put out by it. There's actually a really great self-portrait of Rembrandt laughing called Rembrandt Laughing. I printed that out and stuck it above my bed. The next poem is called That's Not Your Daddy, That's the Wind. "That's not your daddy, that's the wind," I said to my baby as the screen door slammed in the dark night that stayed outside, thank goodness. He was late and she was eating carbonara at the table waiting for him. And even though it was the wind, she said, "Dada," to the pasta, quieter than a whisper, quiet as a glass of water. And because I know that he and the wind are not dissimilar, I didn't correct her. A dream. I had a dream my dead mother decided she wanted to move back. I followed her slumped figure as she pushed a shopping cart through our old home, angrily opening drawers that were attached to nothing. She had one tear glued to her cheek, and her hands were the wings of a crow. I don't know what I expected her to pull out, but she pulled out receipts. She wanted to return everything. If Jesus does come back, I'm rifling through them. Sorry, guys, I'm a fast reader. It's a variety show tonight. If Jesus does come back, I'm not going to tell him my sins. Instead, I'll tell him how many books I haven't finished. I'll show him my bank statements and how much money I spend on cat food, on wine. I'll tell him my current weight and goal weight, my pant size. I'll confess that half the time I say I'm tired, I only mean in my heart, and that I don't need a nap or a $5 cortado. I need a whole new life for 3 days so I can come back to my own like Lazarus, suddenly popular and finally happy to be alive. Your soul. Your soul is as great a thing as the world itself. Did you know? The waves at night, the vines that touch cheeks to the wind, the birds that seek God to fill their bones with. How many times have you been born now, little one? You insisted to come with irresistible love like a ray of light peeking through a keyhole. You are ecstasy with no use for sainthood. The birds know you by your original name. Good poems don't impress me anymore. Not from myself, not from anyone. I crave a poem that does not know that it is one, a poem that thinks it is still, a beautiful, horrible feeling. This poem is called Happier Men Work Outside. Happier Men Work Outside. That isn't a headline I read, but it should be. Today, going by a work site, I saw happy men, men eating lunch under the open heavens, open like their mother's rib cage, and her heart, the sun, kept them warm all day long, and their work kept them honest as their palms were calloused, as their bodies filled and emptied with a strong November wind. A cosmopolitan prayer. Lord, grant me the blind confidence to think I look good in everything. Forgive me my feeble personal energy. Create in me a robust and wiry old lady who looks like New York City at Christmas time. You know the kind, God. This isn't your first fashion week. You know better than anyone how to mix textures to create depth. I've seen the clouds and sky. This poem is called My Son Learned to Play Ode to Joy. My son learned to play Ode to Joy. He played it on the left and it was low, and he said, "These are the dark notes." And then he played it on the right and it was high, and he said, "These are the light notes." I said, "You mean low and high, not dark and light." And he ignored me, and to himself he said, "I can play Ode to Joy." Tom, this one is for you because this is based on your only poem's prompt of possums. So I'm going to go ahead and share this because I'm on Nightlight. So it's called On the Topic of Possums and Other Creatures Unjustly Maligned. Oh, possum, I too have been called a living fossil by those wishing to be done with me. Stripped of your tail, your fur, they stuck you with sweet potatoes in the South and gobbled you up without grace. They smoked and stewed you. They trapped you with rotting fruit, dog food. Just like me, you survive on anything. Just like me, you have two wombs, one for children, Joey's the size of honeybees, and one for our pocket-sized grief. We have too much to do, you with your 20 million years of no one finding you special, and me with my meager 42. What a long way to go, Poss. It would have been so much easier if you were born a kangaroo. For my part, I ought to have been born a jelly bean, tucked against the wet belly of God, just a nipple away from his love. Okay. How to be a poem. Thanks for the snaps. How to be a poem. Be heavy with light. Be round with sound. Swallow the bells, swallow yourself, hire the most beautiful woman to speak your most terrible lines. Set your dress on fire, run to the water, start an ocean fire, run to the sky, burn down the sun. Hunt down the most innocent monster. Feed it to the beautiful woman. This is a very short poem, and Tom, I know you appreciate those, so here we go. It's called Because. Because a baby's mouth holds all of life's kisses, how the sea does not keep track of pearls. Okay, here's a funny poem. How am I doing for time here? I'm okay? Great. Okay. I had a dream my cat dropped my phone. So I should preface this by saying every single dream that I can recount, I make a poem out of. It's kind of one of my shticks here. I had a dream my cat dropped my phone in the toilet, and my husband called while I was trying to fish it out by flushing it. And his face swirled around and around, and he said, "Why were you letting the cat use your phone?" And I said, "I wasn't. He just knocked it off the tank, and don't worry, I'm going to take his allowance away because of this." And my husband said, "You've been giving him an allowance?" And I said, "You've let him use your phone?" And he said, "Only to call collect." And the cat from the hall said, "Can you two hurry up in there, please? I have to use the bathroom." A good way to die. With low lighting, after a long meal, cod cooked whole, potatoes and olives, a happy bottle of wine, soft clothes, snowy windows, a kitchen with a radio, a cat that smells of sleeping, a second room for talking, tea and sticky pudding, a fire burning, a fire dwindling, your head in her lap, your soul rising like chimney smoke, her fingers untangling with grand love the curls that have tethered you to this life. You don't write a poem. You coax it, throw it a little bread, walk backwards, tss, tss, rub your fingers, don't set traps, it won't work, you'll lose it. You just have to stand there like an idiot in love until finally it lies down in the sunlight and offers you its underbelly. Sketch of Toronto, which is where I'm from. Toronto is a pigeon dollarama city, a floor-to-ceiling window city. When people from Toronto go to Montreal, they go for breakfast, proudly ask for œuf au plat. See, Montreal is Toronto's coffee table book. No one here really eats breakfast. We're all too busy walking fast. Toronto is Montreal's nothing. Toronto is for aging girls and money boys, and the girls work a lot until their faces fall off, in fact. They lock their shoes and kick off their front doors, and the nerves have the boys to text them GN, good night, and everyone is drunk and sad. Okay, I'm going to do two small ones and a long one, and we'll round it out, Tom, just so nobody gets sick of me. January. I miss the flowers. It's dark here by 4. Downtown is an empty bathhouse. A waiter standing in a window folds his arms. The snow looks in. Table for one? Ariadne waiting. Theseus left her at the island Dia even after she helped him get out of the labyrinth. She gave him a thread that was smart as hell. Men can't appreciate an intelligent woman. Well, now what? She wades out into the water, thinks about downloading Tinder again. Thinks should have given that string to the Minotaur. One more small one and a long one. Sorry, Tom. This one's called Come Here. Come here. You are a soft little earlobe of a man, a brute. Come here. You are my bean, a pea rolling between my index finger and thumb, rolling between earth and certain death, but lost in something like jazz that doesn't make a sound. You are the itsy bubble wandering off the neck of a dish soap bottle. You catch the morning light, you pop. I spy the downy fuzz of your soul. Off you run. And for my final poem. If no one else is around, is the earth mine? Is the grass mine, the sky, the ground with all her quiet lodgers, the night with her toothless smile? Are the geese? And is the water mine when it covers everything or when it makes itself small and hides along a mountain crease? Is the call of the morning dove mine? Did I write it and forget? When I close my eyes and become the dawn, is the sun then mine to keep? I am hungry to have it, which is to own it, which is to love it, I think. I imagine birds drop at my feet. I put them back in the sky. You're welcome. It's a small thing. I shake the sky to smooth it like a sheet. The sea bears herself to me from a window. I stand and I watch her from the street. The night sucks the wind through her 2 front teeth. To hold it all, I have 2 wet hands, 2 joyful palms. I'm ready to love volcanically. Let me suffer a bottomless solitude, if only I can stuff my face with what is good and green, with what sings and flies and does not bother otherwise, with what once was God's, but now can be mine, all mine, I think.
Thank you so much, Simone, for that absolutely beautiful takeoff to tonight's reading. One amazing way to measure a nightlight set is how often Zoom tells me I'm muted because I'm laughing or I'm saying yes, and it's like, you're muted. And I'm like, I know, it's because I don't want to interrupt Simone's amazing poetry. I also didn't want to interrupt your possum poems because Christy is back at home and sending me updates from the possum dish. So you've got one fan who's excited to check out the recording, even though he's not here live. And that, to lead us off, was Simone Harris, who you can find on Instagram at simoneharris.poet, SIMONEHARRIS.poet. And keep an ear to the ground for Simone's book of poems, which is titled, you heard the eponymous line, A Beautiful, Horrible Feeling, and it will be available later in 2025. Whew, off to an incredible start, and the chat is blowing up with quoted lines, great reading, lots of love for our first reader of the evening. And what a beautiful ramp into introducing our second reader of the evening, keeping the good vibes going, a return reader to Nightlight who we're so excited to have back in Rachel Lauren Myers. Rachel Lauren Myers is a poet from Northern Nevada. Her work can be found or is forthcoming in Red Ogre Review, OK Donkey, and South Florida Poetry Journal. She is an assistant editor at Meme Zine. Rachel, thanks so much for being back with us. We're so excited to hear you read. Take it away.
Thank you, Tom. I also want to dedicate my reading to Pumpernickel, Safe Travels Pumpernickel. And just on a possum note, the only adornment on my laptop are possum stickers. So I knew there was a reason I liked you. Um, I am going to be reading. There you go. I'll send you a picture after this so I can show you my laptop. Um, I'm going to be reading mostly new shit, with the exception of one poem. Everything's been written in the last 6 months. I'm gonna start with my newest shit, which is still a working draft, but I thought I would test it out on an audience. It's called The Forgetting. This is for my grandmother. These days, when we call, you don't look up, even to say hello. Though your hair looks great long and straight gray, you'd hate it like this if you knew. We still expect your set coif dyed black, stiff curls dark as squid ink. Still, we sit up straight. Should you glance upward at your son's phone screen and step through the veil of your disease? Just months ago, you looked up at your daughter and said, "Wow, you're getting fat." Moments like this, we know it's still you in there. When I was 5, my mother told me to wring a wet towel when you came to check on me in my bath. I called you Grandma, never Obachan. I remember your quick yelp as you turned the corner of the door with the breast exam knob hanger, and I wrung a hand towel so quick you could hear the water whooshing out. Later, I'd learn about the chickens, your own grandmother who made you snap their necks by twisting, your own grandmother whose last words were, "Sumi, if you marry a sumo, get on top." Legend begets legend. Now I wonder as I watch you fixed on one task, eating ham in even movements as we speak over you about you. Would you react if I called out, "Grandma," twisted my sweater in quick torque? These days, you are the blankest slate. You've forgotten everything, even death. Swim lesson. I think my really brilliant writer friend, Michael Schmidt, is in the audience. I wrote this based on a story he told me. When I was 6, I went to YMCA camp. On the second day, they made us line up by the pool. They asked if anyone couldn't swim, but no one raised their hand. I was unimaginably shy. I wasn't about to be the only one. When it was my turn, I jumped in the water and nearly drowned. I am still some version of that person. There's a man at work who is a little unkempt. I've always felt we get along. My evidence for this: he never speaks to me, and I never speak to him. He has frequent, severe anxiety attacks. It's hard to explain, but there's something about him you want to protect. He seems fragile, I guess. Once, I jumped and nearly drowned. I wonder if this man knows how to swim. I wonder whether he'd jump in. I know I'd follow him. I am still some version of that person, and more and more and more. I want you to know my love is a sinkhole. The mystery sink in Florida is completely off limits, and for good reason. It's at least 500 feet deep, perhaps more. One can't always check these things. It sits just half a mile from the I-4 on private property. In 1970, a boy diving for a vest disappeared, his companion turning to see his light fade into an opaque limestone sea. 3 days later, a search and rescue diver panicked, lost his mouthpiece, and sank too. Underneath, the black water leads to a network of aquifers. No way to know where the water travels and what it carries. Surely these two tragedies wouldn't be enough to limit access to this natural wonder, the deepest sink in the States. Still, they built fences for safety. Jacques Cousteau once said, "Man has only to sink beneath the surface and he is free." Some do. Sonnet with star stuff. You say you're afraid every story will be the last one you finish. You should write our story unfolding. Someone once said to think of a sonnet as helix, a universe spiraling, volute movement. Everything needed to make you burst into existence, along with everything needed to make everything else. It's not that you're made of star stuff. It may be that you feel some unrealized destiny. You might have been a galaxy. Instead, consider this. When you write, you unfold the universe. You, a small multitude. You will be here long after you are gone. Atomic Soldier Testimonials, after the documentary Atomic Soldiers. Countdown from 59, then the red ring, one side daylight, one side night, crouch down, backs towards the shock, wave, 1 mile away. We all fell over, men screaming for their mothers. Others vomited or ran. We covered our eyes with our arms. We could see through our closed eyelids, through our skin, through to our bones. We could see our own bones. Lord, I saw my own bones. Trenches collapsed, some of us set to digging them out. And the mushroom cloud was the most breathtaking thing. Molten, almost solid, changing colors, and at the top, bright white and lavender, rolling quiet after the roar. A one-star general repeating, "I've lost my men. I don't know where I am." We were still reeling, melted glass shrapnel, red-hot iron to the neck. Men like zombies shuffle forward. We thought the dangling strips of flesh were their clothes at first. People missing at roll call. We never found out. If you could hear it, the air shaking, rolling shapes popping, cloud rising, 35,000 feet up and still going. If you could see it. I have spent a number of years waking to the sight, bright white, dreaming, light drunk, here at the end of the world. In Washoe Valley in winter. Once, I took my train-hopping friend, Ben, on a drive around Washoe Lake. He made me stop so he could stand over a deer carcass by the side of the road. It was the type of day when the wind rushed down the Sierras towards the Washoe, the air chill sharp. We drove up Kingsbury Grade to the cemetery in Virginia City. Ben had his mandolin. In the parking lot, a herd of horses took us by surprise, surrounding my car. He plucked at strings while I murmured shit, 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 and accepted stillness. Up close, all of their rumps showed great, craggy scars. I could have reached out a hand to brush them. Ben finally asked, "What do you think of this?" and played something mournful, vaguely Old World Irish. He composed it in minutes, his eyes never leaving the horses. On the way down, I took a photo of him on the high overlook, crouched on the tallest rock, facing the great wall of the Sierra Nevada across the valley. He told me he'd be leaving soon. He was going to ride the train south to Arizona, run water to migrants crossing the border for No Mas Muertes. I remember he was still so young, but the full summer alone on the lines had changed him. His eyes had grown keen, his voice so determined. He'd become so decidedly him. I studied his chapped lips, his crackled skin. Like the trains he would catch, he came into your life, unbidden, a gift for a short time. For a few years after, I sent him poems, and he called me at odd hours, and I told him he was loved. Today, I drove the old Washoe Highway, stopped to photograph a lone male horse across a pristine white square of new snow. I hummed something vaguely Irish. The wind pressed my back, a leading edge like an icicle. Ben was a body always moving, a mind so still. I am not afraid of silence or long distances. I am not always meant for wide open spaces. As I write this, a train whistle beckons 2 miles south, running along the Truckee. I wonder if anyone now stands wind drunk in the open air, hands on cold graffiti metal, passing through my sector of big sky. It'd be a shame to pass through my home in the night. Tonight, I am afraid of open spaces. I am inside enduring stillness. I am inside writing, wild horses, big sky, big sky. Home means Nevada. Horst and Graben, ichthyosaur, battleborn, yucca, creosote, desert marigold, Paiute, Shoshone, Washoe, bighorn, Prometheus, rain tree, sagebrush, silver, Tiam's buckwheat, juniper, basin, Mustang, gold, ghost town, plutonium, uranium, tritium, lithium, megacurie, cancer cluster, doomtown, survival city, dust, 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 big sky, big sky, big sky. This final poem I have for you tonight is called Elegy for the Riot House. Thank you so much. Punks like me scuttle up the slope of the driveway, always 10 or 20 squatters smoking endless cigarettes with no ashtrays. The fireflies of their butts in the dark above the underground garage with graffiti and 2 bare bulbs and a black back wall of dirty amps and microphones. Underneath, a thumping. The house seemed to keel into itself while the band played a song whose only discernible words were blood and milk. I was in the front row thinking maybe I was too old, though not nearly the oldest there. Behind me, someone was curling their fingers in my hair and pulling hard. In the blur, in the press of bodies, my friends had painted their faces bright white. The cops said seriously, next time. As if we knew next time, as if we were creatures of any kind of pattern, as if this house wasn't going to burn down anyway soon, sooner than we think. And the gentrifiers would soon sigh the good sigh, as if to say now the other houses will fall in line. Now this will be a fine district adjacent to the new $1 million neon line. Now we don't have benches for sleeping, and when they clear the tent camps down the street, they'll brand it Reno sweeping. This violence packaged neatly in the nightly news as cleaning. So this block can be proper pretty, a pretty so hushed, you won't have to hear us anymore. Our jagged buzz, our grit, our muck, our wailing lust for something different than this, something anything more than this, when so much depends on this, a groaning house and hot nights under bare lights, and all us kids force-fed sour milk, this barren life. Tomorrow, we'll wake up late and overripe. The magic of this house that will burn down anyway. It'll burn down anyway. The magic of this house was always absent in the morning light. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rachel, for that incredible set of your Dust, 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 Dust poem. I'm just going to read this incredibly short poem by Barbara Guest called June. Dust, 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 only small, rain, thin, thin, rain, starved, rain, rim. And that was Rachel Myers, who you can find on social media in various places at Hello Starbuck, HELLOSTARBUCK, on both Instagram and Blue Sky. You should also, at Rachel's recommendation, check out Meme Zine, for which Rachel is an assistant editor. It's a fun, zany lit mag that publishes pieces that blur the line between art, literature, and content. Also, Rachel recommends that you check out the low residency MFA program through Holy Family University in Philly. There are no application fees, no bullshit, just an MFA done right. And please feel free to ask Rachel if you would like more details about all of that, or about any of those beautiful poems that you just heard. Yeah, the chat is again blowing up. I'm loving all the love I'm seeing this beautiful evening, which means it's always a little bittersweet to get to the back half of a reading order, but by the same token, I'm so excited to welcome another reader who we're so excited to have back on in Tommy Wyatt Blake. Tommy Wyatt Blake, he, they, is the jester of popular culture and poet laureate of time fuckery. He's the author of Ditch Laps slash square bracket Really Afraid, close square bracket. So Who's Courage, Trick Mirror or Your Computer Screen, Disaster Fire slash Disaster Star, and others. They're currently synthesizing digital archives, space voids, and confines of the body, and right now they are here to read some beautiful, beautiful work. Tommy, thank you so much for being here. I'm just so excited to hear what you're going to share.
Thank you so much for having me again. It's great to be here. So I'm going to be reading some poems from Ditch Laps, Mutually Assured Destruction, as well as some other poems that most of them aren't out, but I wrote them about 6 months ago. So it's not quite new shit, but it's kind of new shit. So I'm going to start off with Do Not Resuscitate. Clawing out of a coffin, bare-knuckled, haze of insulation pink, body pockmarked with wounds tripping trypophobia, blood fluxing from jellied and friable tissue, materials mucked up for architectural disaster, how it's a design flaw, the graveyard misting with sawdust, as I ply my hands through the fresh slab of dirt. What if we consider the cemetery to be a rigged claw machine instead? How everything is supposed to be glazed over in feral and pungent yellow light. How it gives tangible static as a migraine, ribbed with chrome cold. The illusion is how it makes me feel alive when I'm chosen with shing certainty by someone else's hand. And I just have to ask, why do I keep coming back? So I do want to mention that poem is kind of a Buffy poem. If you know, you know. And so is the next one, just a little bit. And it's titled Gestures Broadly at Everything. So blank-stricken, so bored now, absorbed by a glitzing aura in quartz pink, pinching my skin so I don't blink, all in the consequence of need, to exist on the other end, to be more ghost than person, paralysis kissed and ethereal. Let me be nowhere touched by sleep. Let me close my eyes just this once. And the next one is titled The Interview. You wanted to be static and not a flesh suit, all hooven, cubed with sweat. Tell me a bit about it. Be a better person if you wish. Why don't you tell me how you really feel? Be loose with honesty again. Promise it will save you from no life ever led, only tended in dreams. How it texturized daytime sound at 10% opacity, in dread green or some other metaphor to choose, to talk about me as if I too switched truth for jester atrocities of the body, horror variety. But I guess I can't blame you if it's the only tool you've had to survive. Should have known sooner how blitz the image of you really is in a third-dimensional space. Forgive me for this, but did you mean to mend when you're rendered so frayed and grizzled gray? And the next one is titled Self-Destruction by Inertia. During the full moon in Aquarius, all deep-fried blue and blown up in the sky, it's gotta look bright for self-constructed apocalypse. You grind indica to ingest a little haunting. As bong water bubbles, you breathe in a miasma of floral notes until the room is patched with smoke, muskiness, and sepia. How much do you trust yourself will be fluxed to fixed to fluxed by imitations of memory. How it compounds the more your body no clips through the background of time, your spine sickled and rotten with inertia. How long has it been? It only takes a moment to feel this wrong, your skin twisting as you crack the bones you're sitting on. As the hour lapses, your form shifts to screen, televised in the reflection. You're more freeze response than person these days, when your high alien beam launches you into another dimension of home for 3 years. You binge watch yourself to the last leg of it, where it's winter, windows so frozen that musk of snow, soured by dying sun, seeps through your room. You really wish you could cry right now. What good will it do when you look at their lips move, the sound blitzed by the ringing in your ears? past future flashes of their cherry lipstick kiss on the mirror that you recognize as one of your shades, and back to past, where voice brasses in to break your dissociation by dumping you as a twice last time. An invasive dread succumbs you for so long you liken yourself to post-lobotomy, to now when you crave nothing. It's safe, sterilizing, this retrograde in the form of self-induced brain fog. Next poem's a bit shorter. It's titled perfect.victim.response.exe. You always joked you'd be unstoppable when you'd unlock the rest of your trauma, like your phone's home screen. And what did you mean by that? Or do you not have conscious access when you're mystery seeking it out? Investigating a message from you to you, you're all a bunch of parasites. To the automatic feeding yourself with information by looking in all your hiding spots online, hunting parts of yourself for sport. And you don't know how you got here, flunking words onto a screen, memories hidden until the right moment at first strike. But be careful, stop here. The system is overloaded. The motherboard might die, blitzing to black. Please delete this file off your computer after saving it to a flash drive. And you can be safe, wrinkled into the vicissitude of memory, time bulging with wraiths. So I just have a few more left. The next one is titled, insert long title here, type of lore drop about your relationship to arson. They say you're afraid to flick on a lighter as they uncork a bottle of kerosene, and this is why they want to leave you in the potential of ruin, bracing to be burned when they're bored of you for not taking risks, or when you're too stuck in choice paralysis because you don't want change to force you out. There's smoke soaking through your bedroom door frame, long sleep rendering in the distance, a trick of dream for you to respawn in an unskippable cutscene you think is punishment, and welcome it with open mouth, your tongue star-studded and scorch white. You breathe in a goodbye they texted you from the other room, their charm not flame resistant, but you don't know that yet. And you're wondering why you can't feel the hurt if you can see it consuming you whole. The next one is titled Void Punctured with the Past. Forecast contains negatives of space to be placed on a projector. The light fluxing a cone port of stars, dust specks displaced from image, all wraith of life and dulled. Few patches of vibrating fields shift between frames. You could say its particles got all rearranged. Here, time is measured in asynchronous units. No movement is recorded quite the same. Foreign objects studded on the cosmic background. Sensors buzzing of radiation, all with the intention to claim you. Wake you out of sleep, choking on wanting to know why. It couldn't have been better predicted. How the last item in your search history contains, aren't dreams a type of forecast? I mean, don't dreams anticipate the future, spit out a fate to fade ratio? There isn't anything linear to be observed here, laced with language through your teeth or otherwise, but a structure chasmed by lack of light in the room. That is, if you turn your head 90 degrees, you'll feel velocity in real time. How you face dark patches pittering with wet mattered heat, until you're spaced out on semantics, the body drained out of you, as you whisper type, thanks, I'll take the bullet test void, followed by see my form, how it's night vortexed when I blink 5 times. You rate the product as the absence of stars, 0. The slides click off. And then the last one I'm going to read is titled Savior Complex, after Magdalena Bay. I broke the galaxy, the fake one, that promised things from a dimension so gray, alien, and strange that it's unreliable at best, to the extent that I can't expect its findings to be truth. I wish I saw the northern lights with you. I bet they were as pretty as you say. But it's time to crack our bodies open like a glow stick, become particles of bright in the through line of our limbs, and return to stardust. But you don't know how to spin out of yourself and fix your body 5-pointed. I hope for your sake that someday you find a way to love when love is everywhere. Thank you.
Wow, what a delightful cosmological pixelated marvel that was. Shout out to Tommy for not only those amazing poems, but also maybe being our first Nightlight reader with a visible GameCube in frame. I appreciate that tremendously. Melee all day. That was Tommy Wyatt Blake, who you can find on Twitter, X, Blue Sky, and Instagram at Tommy Wyatt Blake, TommyWyattBlake. You heard about a lot of Tommy's wonderful releases that are out there in the world, but also Tommy has a poetry chapbook called Miasma Mist, Miasma Mist, that's releasing with Carencia Press on Valentine's Day very soon within the month. So get excited. Also, Tommy has another poetry chapbook forthcoming with the inimitable Ethel Zine, who make beautiful, beautiful crafted books in September. So keep an eye out, ear out for all of Tommy's exciting work, and then maybe challenge them to a game of Melee, which we can settle that at the next nightlight that Tommy you read at. Um, cool. Wow. Oh, this has just been the highest highs that I'm so excited to have been on with you all. So glad and grateful to our first three readers, and incredibly grateful to our last reader who is going to bring us home tonight. Again, always tough to end a reading as good as this one, but I couldn't imagine a better note to end it on. I'm excited to introduce Suzanne Frischkorn, who is the author of 4 books, most recently Whipsaw from Anhinga Press. Her poems have recently appeared or are forthcoming in the Cincinnati Review, Denver Quarterly, Salamander, South Dakota Review, and Latino Poetry, a Library of America anthology. Suzanne, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for bringing us home.
Thank you so much, Tom. I'm so happy to be here. It's been so wonderful to hear Simone and Rachel and Tommy read and hear their distinctive, dynamic voices come through. So snaps to everybody. I'm going to be, it's late, so I'm going to keep it short. My heart goes out to you for Pumpernickel, by the way. So I'm also dedicating my reading to her and you. I'll be reading, I think, 3 poems from Whipsaw. I saw someone say that they enjoyed it in the chat. So thank you. Thank you very much. um, I'm going to be reading a poem that has a run-in title. It's called Dear America. It's time to teach my daughter how to shoot an arrow, how to use a knife, how to hit the center of a target. It's bloody work, but she should know. It's time to teach her how to win a debate while applying lipstick without a mirror, and how to hold her keys between her fingers in a parking lot. It's time for her to hit the weight room, join the cross-country team, cast a spell, literally and figuratively. And it's time for her to develop telekinesis and clairvoyance. It's time she knows to never leave her drink unattended, never drink on an empty stomach, never drink before her period. And maybe what I mean to say is never drink alcohol, period. It's time to learn that one day she might switch grocery stores because a guy on staff there gives her the creeps. And even if it's less convenient to travel across town, it's always best to trust her intuition. It's time to teach her that when a grown man stares at her new breasts, she is not the one who should feel ashamed. America, she's her mother's daughter. She's got this. Museum Mile, New York City. All the women wear summer dresses, and men play ping pong in Bryant Park. Sun and sky in harmony. We stroll and forget it's all dire. It's the day the sex trafficker pedophile is found dead in his cell. Perhaps that's why the city has all its outdoor umbrellas up and everyone dines outside. Beauty's so bright I wear sunglasses. I wrap my denim jacket around my waist and leave my own prison. No service. All I can do is let sun kiss my skin and believe every day on the Upper East Side is this fine. Later, when I see a dog sitting across his owner on the train, I smile because who wouldn't? I'm getting over a cold, so I feel like my voice sounds a little funny, so apologies. Backcountry. The shooter was white. We live in a verdant forest, 20 minutes from everything. Summer's leaves screen the road, every sunrise caught and cradled in branches. Our perimeter lined with stacked stoned walls. When it all finally goes to shit, that's something anyway, not being an easy target. The shooter was a loner. The shooter didn't talk to anyone. He was in his 20s, wrote a manifesto, streamed his shooting live. His mother bought the guns. He graduated from the high school. No one would fuck him. No one raised him that way. No one followed up. No one could believe it happened. They never thought it would happen here. At the carnival, the strangest of places to escape news, colored lights corral the dusk. Dark clouds speed toward us. Lightning flickers sky. We gather our children and drive home. And then, in the spirit of the evening, I'm going to do something wild and crazy and read a poem that is not in any book. It's kind of new. It's called Flight. The first time I left you, I loaded everything I owned into my blue Sunbird and flew to the other side of town to book a room at a highway motel. 5 months pregnant with a brown-eyed boy who began to flutter whenever I sat down. If only I had a crystal ball to show me what the waves of adrenaline my body sent to his body would do to his body. Would it have changed anything? I didn't leave you again for a long time. It took a magic potion, a teapot filled with cash, a suitcase of bank statements, and love for a brown-eyed boy for me to catch flight. We bypassed the church and the rider on the white stallion. I was so thin then, effaced by your brutalization. Years later, I plant daffodils and tulip bulbs in a patchy yard surrounded by despair. Only then do I discover I'm an optimist. Thank you all so much.
I'm
Really.
an optimist. What a beautiful phrase to end us on, or actually a whole ass clause. I'm an optimist. That was Suzanne Frischkorn. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for that incredible closing us on new shit, which is just like the most exciting way possible to close. Again, that for all of our wonderful listeners was Suzanne Frischkorn, who you can find on Twitter at litwindowpane, LITWINDOWPANE, and on Blue Sky, rather, at Suze Frischkorn, SUZFRISCHKORN.bsky.social, and Instagram is just at Suze Frischkorn. And you also heard those first few poems from Suzanne's wonderful new book, Whipsaw, with Anhinga Press. You can check out that book and all of Suzanne's wonderful work at her website, suzannefrischkorn.com. Whew. Yeah. Wow. That was great. That was such a beautiful tetralogy of wonderful sets to wrap us up this evening and to welcome 2025 as our first reading of the new year. So just to close, I want to say thank you so much to all of our readers for sharing their beautiful work with us. Thank you, Simone, Rachel, Tommy, and Suzanne. It was an honor to hear you and such an honor to also welcome in some listeners live in the Zoom with us, whether you're listening in the Zoom call right now or on the YouTube recording, as it were. We hope that if you're listening with a sheaf of new poems, new shit, or a book or something close at hand, you might consider dropping us a line. Again, we're at Nightlight Poems on Twitter, night_light_poems_ on Instagram, or just like email me or DM me or whatever. We'd love to hear from you about sharing your work at a future event. I'm still behind, but I promise I will get back to you if you've expressed some interest in reading. We would love to, love to, love to have you. We've got a really great lineup set up for February and then March and beyond. Lots of excitement coming up. So with our last just couple minutes together, we always close Nightlight with a poem. And, there's unfortunately been a lot of passing on going on this week, as folks mentioned. Also, thank you so much to kind readers who dedicated their readings to Pumpernickel. I'm sure she's straight chilling in the poetry audience world. I'm going to read a poem from this lovely book. It's called Last Words. It's by the poet Antler, who is a really unique individual, wrote this beautiful long poem called Factory that is pretty amazing. But I'm going to read the very last poem in this book, Last Words by Antler. The poem is called After All Is Said and Done. I want to lie down in dappled leaf shade, in quivering shadows of quivering leaves, be they oak, be they maple, be they elm or birch. I want to rest in the play of shadows over my reclining form, the massage of shadows which consoles me in its way, restores for me with whatever restoration flickering shadows of leaves afford, be they willow or aspen, be they poplar or beech. I want to be caressed by shadows of wavering leaves, soothed off to sleep, feeling the gentle breeze, looking up at the rustling, sun-drenched crown. Be it basswood, be it chestnut, be it walnut or hickory. After all is said, after all is done, this is the way I would die.